Hey guys, welcome back to the video. So this is the part 2 of our data engineering project series. If you haven't watched the part 1, then you can check link in the description and watch it, because that part is really important to understand the basic fundamental and the basic execution that we did. And once you watch that video, then you can continue watching this particular video. So without wasting time, let's get started. So let's start by recapping what we did till now. So we initially had our data on Kaggle.com. So we downloaded that data and uploaded that data onto S3 bucket. Once we uploaded that data onto S3 bucket, we started analyzing that data. So we created a glue crawler to understand how the data is built. So we found out that we had some errors in our JSON file. So we had to transform that data. So for that, we use AWS Lambda function. We transform that data and put that data onto the cleaned version bucket. Now what we need to do, we need to work with the CSV file which contains our actual data. So we will build a crawler on top of CSV file, understand that data, run some ETL on top of it if it needs some transformation, and based on that we will go further and build our final product. So let's start by understanding our data. So go to S3 bucket, this particular S3 bucket which we created to store our raw data over here. Go to that and you'll find there are two folders. One was the JSON file, everything, all the JSON files are stored over here, and second folder over here is the raw statistics where all the CSV files are stored based on the different regions. Now what you need to do, you need to go to the glue console and click on the add crawler. So we're going to be repeating the same process again. Over here just write your crawler name, so CSV crawler 01. Okay, then click on the next. Now you need to select the crawler source type. Now these things will be as it is, just click on the next. So over here you need to provide your S3 path. You can directly go over here, copy this particular URI and paste it on the console. Okay, then click on the next. Over here we need to select the same IAM role that we created for the glue. So you can select this particular role that we created in our part 1. Click on next. Now this is the raw data, so we will be using our database which is the raw version on the Athena. So you need to select this particular database that we created in the part 1, which is the raw version. Click on the next, click on the finish, and it should work. So click on the finish and let's run this particular crawler. Just click on run it now and you should be able to run this particular crawler. So our crawler is almost complete. You can see over here it added one table. So you can go to Athena, select the right database which is the raw one, and you can see the raw statistics already added over here. You can click on the preview table and you'll see the final result, which is basically the 10 rows that it is returning. Now over here, as you can see, we have all the data that we needed: video ID, trending date, title, channel title, and all the other things. But one thing you need to make sure is that it is the partition table. Now what is the partition key? As we can see over here, just let me just scroll it. It is the region. So as you understand right now, in the S3 bucket, the reason we stored all of the data like this is to create the partition for each and every region. So now we can easily query our data based on the different regions. So if I want to just get the region such as region where it is CA, so it will only return the data from this particular bucket. It will not query these all the other different buckets. So generally you create the partition based on dates or whatever the column that you are using to query your data. So now what we can do, we can join these two tables, which is the raw statistics and the table we created in the cleaner version. So let me just write this particular query, this as a inner join. If you know basics about the SQL, then it should be pretty clear. So we are first selecting data from our raw statistics and we are joining one more table which is in the cleaned version. So you just have to provide the path name as, over here we have db underscore YouTube underscore c clean dot, and let's just put this table name data as p on. What is the common ID over here is that let me just put the ID. I should be, yeah. So over here, as you can see, we have the ID on this particular thing, which is a string. So ID is equal to b dot category underscore ID. And now you will see we will get some error. So I will explain you what the error is. it is saying column ID cannot be resolved. So let me just check this particular thing. Let me just copy. Okay, this A and C. Let me just run this particular thing. I just used it. Now we got the error. So you can write this particular query. So what we are basically doing, from this raw statistics, we are using the category ID from this particular table, and from the JSON file, which was the cleaner version, we are using the ID from that. So JSON file contains all the different category IDs, and this file contains all the different videos with the category ID. So we are using category ID to join on top of that. But while we execute this query, we are getting the error as the type of this particular thing, which is the category ID, is integer, while in this particular table, the cleaner version, it is string. Okay, so what you can do, you can click, just cast it. So cast int and just run this particular query. Okay, just cast as int and it should work. Okay, so as you can see, we joined those two tables. So instead of that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna be just selecting the things we need. So let's select a dot title, comma, a dot category ID, comma, b dot, let's say, inside this b we want, let's say, snip title, which is the title. It's not b, it's b. Okay, let me just run this, and you'll see only the selected columns that we need and that we written in this particular select statement. So let me just pull this. Yeah, so as you can see over here, we are getting some video titles over here, and also getting the category of that particular video. So this particular video, which is the episode 20 of something, it is the entertainment video. Then let's go, most of them videos are in the Russian characters, as you can see over here, but we can easily filter this out, where a dot region is equal to CA. Now if we run this particular query, we will only get the data from the Canada. So let this particular query run. So as you can see over here, we can see different video titles and its category attached to it based on the category ID. So we have like video in music, sports, and all the other things. So this way we can understand what is happening inside the data. Now the thing over here is that instead of casting this particular thing, you should not generally use casting inside your query. You should always pre-process all of these things. So currently this particular thing is in string, but we should directly convert this particular ID into integer, so that we don't have to cast every time we run the query. So we can fix these things into different ways. So you can go to Glue console over here, and let me just click over here the clean version. Okay, inside the clean version, as you can see, this is particular thing is in the string. You can click on the edit schema, click on this particular string, and just write it as big integer, apply and save it. Okay, now this particular thing is in the big int version. So now we can remove this, and let's see if it works or not, because it will give you some kind of the output, and let's see what it gives. Okay, now as you can see, it is saying that high bad data. So it is giving us some error. So it is saying that Parquet file, okay, it is incompatible with the big int. Now why we are getting this particular error, let's understand that. Okay, so let me just go and pull out my script. Okay, so we get error when we remove this integer casting. The reason is that a Parquet file comes with a lot of metadata. So the Parquet file, whenever you create, it has everything attached to it. So all the different columns have their own schema attached to it. So when we created our Parquet file, the ID column has string data type attached to it. So when we convert that data type inside the AWS catalog, it doesn't change that particular data type inside the Parquet file. It is only changing while we are querying that particular data. So the errors is not gonna get fixed. Now to fix this particular issue, what we're gonna do, keep the change. So whatever the changes we made inside the catalog, we're gonna be keeping it same. So we're gonna be deleting our JSON file inside the clean version. Then we will run our Lambda function again. The reason our Lambda function will run is that in the Lambda function we return the append. So we already have the table, we are just gonna append the new data. So generally you might have the override or you want to create the new table, but instead of that we are just gonna append the data, whatever the data we have, inside the existing schema structure, and that way we can easily fix this issue. So let me just show you how you can do that. If you did not understand it, once we execute this particular thing, then you will understand it. So go to your S3 bucket where you have like clean version stored. So over here we have this particular data. Just go and delete this particular thing. So just copy this, permanently delete this particular object. Once it gets deleted, go to your Lambda function. This is a Lambda function that we created. Click on, again go and click on the test version. So over here we have like S3 put event. Again you need to provide all the different example your file path over here. So what we need to do, go on to your raw version bucket, click on the YouTube raw statistics, copy this particular S3 URI. Okay, not this particular thing. Okay, copy this particular S3 URI. Over here you just need to put the S3 bucket. So just put the bucket name, remove all the other things that you have copied. Again over here you just need to put the bucket name where your data is stored, and at the end you need to put the key. Key is basically everything comes after the bucket. So if you have like watched the part 1, then this particular thing you will understand it easily, that we did in our last video. Just click on the, just give the event name as S3 test event. Okay, and just save it. Now we're gonna run this particular event, and it should create again one more file inside our S3 bucket. So it will take around like few seconds to run this particular code. Once the code runs successfully, as you can see, you can go to your S3 bucket over here inside the cleansed version YouTube. Over here you can see the file coming it again. Then you can easily now let's run the query, and now let's see what we get. Now as you can see, we got the output as it is, and if I refresh this particular thing, you will see instead of string, this now converted it into the big integer. So what just happened, we changed the glue catalog over here to big integer. We deleted a file that was built onto the different schema structure, and then we appended the new data using the Lambda function into this existing schema structure that created the inserted the data onto the table, and now we can easily query that data. So this is what we call the pre-processing and being efficient for the querying, because you don't have to always so it is not good practice to always cast this particular thing while you are querying that data, because once the data grows, it becomes more and more expensive to do this cast operation. So you need to make sure that everything is set over here. Okay, so now once you do this basic analysis, we will also have to process the raw version that is stored over here. We will do some processing on top of this particular data, and we will move this data into our cleaner version, so we can have all the transform data into one single bucket. So for that we're going to be using glue ETL. So you can go to glue console and click on the jobs over here and click on the add job. Now you can give the name to this particular bucket. So let me just copy this, and we can give this name, let's say cleaned. So you can give this name as cleansed US East 1D ETL. Let's give this cleansed CSV to Parquet. Okay, then choose the IAM role that we used over here, which is this one. Keep everything as it is. So we're gonna be using Python 3 Spark 4. Now the file name should be this. This is where you want to store your output. Just keep it as it is. Don't change it, because it will create a lot of complication. Click this particular thing enable, because we want to see what is happening inside the job. So you will understand the job bookmark when we actually run this particular code. Job metrics, so if you want to see like what is happening inside the job, so it will give you you can easily track whenever the error comes inside the CloudWatch. CloudWatch is basically the logging mechanism inside the AWS. And there are other things also, if you want to provide the external path for the Python library, some of the jars and all the other things. Okay, so these are the basic parameters. You don't have to change anything, just keep everything as it is. Click on the next. So over here you need to select your raw data. So raw data that we created inside the CSV is this one. Just select that because we want to process that data. Then just click as it is. So once you are on here, then you need to select the target dataset. So this was our source dataset that we selected over here, and you click next. You click next, and over here you need to select the target dataset. So click on the create tables in your target. Select Amazon S3. Okay, then select your file format, which is the Parquet version. So over here you need to provide your target path, basically where you want to store your data. So we will use a similar target path, but we will change the bucket name. So just copy this S3 URI over here, just paste it over here, and you will have to change this particular bucket name to the cleansed version that we created. So instead of raw bucket, we're going to be using this particular bucket. So just copy this particular bucket name, replace that bucket name to the target path. Let me just do this over here. So this is your target path where you want to store your data. Just click on next. Now over here you can see the transformation or the schema changes if you want to do while converting the CSV file to the Parquet file. So as you can see, you will see the big integer is converted into long directly. So we will keep everything into the big integer only. So you just have to go click big integer, select the big integer while changing the schema, and this is just a one-time operation. So wherever you see big int over here and wherever you see long, just convert that into the big integer and update that. So it will take around like of your 1 to 2 minutes to do that. And again, as I said, this is just a one-time operation. So just to keep everything into same format, we're gonna be doing this. So go over here, big int, update it. As you can see, we updated most of the things. So all of the data type from the source matches the target data type. If this makes sense, click save job and edit script. Okay, just do that, and AWS will create the entire PySpark script for you. So as you can see, if you can easily save this and run this particular job and it will work. But instead of doing that, we're gonna be doing some optimization onto this particular job, and the reason is currently where this particular file is writing this data into our S3 bucket, this is basically our target bucket, it will write only the single file. Okay, but we want our data to be presented same as our source, so it will not create the partition. So we will have to write some code to create the partition inside our bucket, and I already have written the code for that. So I'm just gonna copy that code and I will explain you what that code is. So first of all, we need to import the dynamic frame. Okay, so you need to add this particular line on top. So dynamic frame is basically like the pandas frame, but it is more efficient and you can easily work with the data inside your Spark code. So just add this particular line. I will provide the code in the link in the description so you can use that. So you need to add these two lines. So first of all, what we are doing is that we are just converting this into the data frame, and then we are building the final output and creating the dynamic data frame. Now I will provide the link to understand these things into detail, but just for the simplicity, just follow along with me what I'm trying to do, and when we actually run this particular code, it will all make sense. So for the sake of this tutorial, just follow with me along, because once you actually understand the final output, that way you will understand what we are trying to do. So add these two lines, and then we have to make the final change over here, which is basically you need to add partition key. Okay, so our partition key is region. So at the end of this particular curly braces, okay, you need to add this particular code, which is the let me just use this. Okay, so at the end of this curly braces, you need to add this particular code, partition keys, and add your partition key as region. So make sure you write exactly the same way that I've written, and don't worry about it if you don't want to write. I will provide the code link in the description so you can do that. And now save this particular job and click on the run job, and you can easily run this particular job. Now go back and click on this particular job that we just created, and you can track down where if the job is running or not. So let's wait for this job to complete, and if we get some error, then we will try and understand how to resolve that particular error. So our code ran, but we got some error, and the reason for error is that if we go to and check our data, you will see we have a lot of different data in different language. Now the programming language cannot easily understand this language and convert that into the machine level code. So you need to encode these things into something called as UTF. So UTF-8 is basically the encoding format. So you can easily encode your current data so that this particular data can be converted into the machine level code so that computer can understand it. So for the sake of the tutorial, we are not going to work on the UTF and change all of these things. So we will just filter out whatever the data that we don't want. So for that, you just have to add 2 lines of code. One is something called as a predicate push down. So the thing you need to do is above this particular first create dynamic frame, you need to add this particular code. And over here, what we are just doing is that we are just filtering out and selecting these regions, which is the Canada, Germany and US. We are just going to work with these regions, and then at the end of this particular code, what you need to do, you need to write this particular thing, which is basically push underscore down predicate is equal to predicate push down. So what it is doing, it is basically filtering this particular data that we get from the Athena and filtering all the regions that are CA, GB and US. Just save this particular thing, run this particular job, and we should be able to run our first ETL job inside the Glue. Now the reason we are doing these things is that when you are working and building your first ETL pipeline, first of all you need to test your ETL pipeline whether it works or not. Then when it starts working, then you can work and handle some of the data such as all of these like Chinese or Russian data and start making changes on that. So first of all, for the sake of the tutorial and for the sake of the testing, we will filter out all of this data and see whether our job works or not. So let this particular thing run, and if it gets successful, then we should be able to see our final data onto our cleaner version bucket. So over here we have the clean version. So as you can see, we got some of the data. So this particular thing is currently writing data inside our bucket. So the execution time is currently 1 minute, and if you go to this raw statistics, you will be able to see the temporary folder because it is currently writing some of the data. So let's go back and let's just keep waiting for it to complete. And these are some of the files that Glue creates, so you don't have to worry about this raw statistics. These are the file that is created by Glue, so just ignore that for now because we are not going to work with, and nobody is going to see that when you're working in the project. So the main important file is that. So as you can see, we start getting the CA, GB and US data, and inside this data we will have one file which is the Parquet file, as you can see over here. Okay, so wait for this to complete. Go to Glue, and this particular job succeeded. So as you can see, we got the run status as succeeded, and we also got our data over here inside this particular bucket. How cool is that? So we were able to get the CSV file, write a Spark job. So Spark job is basically written by the AWS, so it makes things easier. We did some schema changes in between, and finally we got our output over here. Now the same thing you need to do, you need to go and create the Glue crawler on top of it, the cleaner version of the bucket. So we have currently what we have like D on YouTube, we have this particular file, okay, the raw file that we used, I guess that was, yeah. So currently we have this particular JSON file that we used, and second we're gonna be creating our catalog on top of this particular buckets, that the cleaner version. So just copy this particular name, or just so what you need to do, just click on add crawler, copy this, just change the name to cleaned version, and over here CSV to Parquet ETL. Okay, now click on the next, go over here, click on the copy S3 URI, paste the cleaner version over here, click on the next, choose the IAM role, which is the D that you have been using, click on the next, choose the database, which is the cleaned version, next, and finish. This is as it is. This is the process that we've been doing and following till now, and click on the run it now, and it should run this particular job. And let's wait for this to complete, and once it is complete, then we will query that particular thing onto Athena, and then we will do our further analysis on top of it. So till our Glue job executes, what we will do, we will go and work with the Lambda function. So inside of a Lambda function, if you remember, currently we are just testing it using some custom test events. So if you go to the test event over here that we just created, let me just click over here. Okay, so we are just using one single file over here, and this is just a test event. So we just run some test event and it generates some output. What we need is basically whenever we get any data onto this particular bucket. So let me just go back to this JSON bucket, this one where we have stored our JSON data. Currently we are just using this particular file, but what we need is that we want to first execute this particular code inside all of this file, and we also want to create some kind of mechanism that whenever any file get uploaded, let's say the new region is added, let's say the new region is like Russia is getting added over here, the one more file for the Russia is getting added over here. So we want to automatically run our Lambda code without us manually running it, and the data should be getting added into the output bucket, which is the clean version bucket. So we will put that thing, and to do that you just have to add the trigger over here. Over here you have like multiple triggers. You need to click on the S3 one. Okay, so you can easily create the trigger on top of S3 bucket. So where our data is onto this raw data, raw US East 1 dev. Then the event type can be anything. So whenever someone put or copies some data or someone deletes some data, okay, based on the different events available, so we will keep it as all objects created event. So whenever we have any object in our S3 bucket, it should run this particular Lambda function that we just created. Over here you need to provide the path. So for the path we're gonna be copying this particular path. Okay, this is the also called as key, so we will put this particular key, and for the suffix we will use JSON. So we just need to work with the JSON file. So whenever any JSON data gets uploaded over here, it should run the Lambda function. Just click on this. So once you create your trigger, what you need to do, go and first of all delete all of this data. So we need to test our function. So go click on the delete. Okay, and click on the permanently delete this particular function, delete object. Okay, once it is deleted, click close. And also we need to delete the output file that we had in our clean version. So go over here in the raw, not over here. Okay, so go over here, just this particular file we had. So click onto this, delete this particular file. Okay, click permanently delete this particular JSON object that we created. Go back onto bucket, and now we will upload data onto this particular bucket again. So we're going to be following the same process. The command that we have written before to copy the data from our local file to the S3 bucket, we will run it again. So just go to the folder that you have the data. So run the command that we executed in the part 1 of this particular project series. Go to this S3 bucket and you should be able to see that data is uploaded over here, and you should be able to see this particular function ran. So let's just go to the monitor, and it will take some time to actually see if it got executed or not, but till then we can actually go and check inside our S3 bucket, which is the clean version that we have, and you can see we have like multiple files available over here. So as you can see, all the output of the file is created in this particular bucket inside the YouTube folder. Now you can go to Athena over here and you can easily refresh this. So you will see two versions over here. One is the raw statistics, that is the version that we created for the Parquet format, and one is the clean data. Now this particular data contains everything, each and every single region that is available. So all the categories you will be able to see in this particular clean version. So now we have done multiple things. We even added the trigger to S3 in the Lambda function. So now this is what everything looks like. So we had some raw data, we processed that data, and now we have both the CSV version that is converted into the Parquet version, uploaded into the clean version, and we have the JSON version converted into the Parquet version, uploaded into the clean bucket. Now we need to do some ETL on top of this particular thing and build a reporting layer. So reporting layer is that generally we have some kind of the query that is running every day. So instead of running that particular query every day, what we will do, we will build some ETL pipeline and we will pre-process that data and build a final reporting version based on that data. And you will understand what I mean by this. So let me just go over here and let me just go to this particular query that we had. So instead of raw, now we're going to be using the clean version that we had. Okay, so this will work too. Let me just run this particular query. So again this thing is same, the title category snip title, but instead of using the raw version, I'm using the clean version. So as you can see, we get the data over here, and what we'll do, we will select all the columns we want. So instead of just limiting our columns, we want everything in our analytics bucket. Now this particular thing for this query, okay, so we don't have so we don't want to write this query every day and execute. So when the data grows larger and larger, it becomes really difficult to query this data using SQL. So what we will have to do, we will have to build some ETL pipeline from this clean bucket to the reporting bucket, and for that we will use Glue. So again, go to Glue console, click on the Glue Studio. Okay, so this is the new Glue Studio created by AWS, so we're going to be using that. Click on the view jobs, and we will use visual with the source and target. Okay, so now click on the create. Now just delete whatever the things are over here as it is. Give the name as let's just copy the bucket name and just edit it. So let me just go over here, Glue Studio, and give the name D on YouTube Packet QUET Packet analytics version. Okay, let's give this name, and now we will have to import few things. So first of all, we will have to use our data source. So we have like Glue catalog, so we will use our Glue catalog and choose our database, so our DB clean data, and we will have to choose our table. So one table we have is the clean statistics. Then we will also need one more same thing, which is the choose data is the clean version, and we will use the raw statistics. So these are the two tables, these are the two different tables we have inside our Glue catalog. Now what we need to do, we need to do some kind of the join on top of it. So you can use this, go to transform and click on to join. Okay, and over here we need to use the inner join. The node property will be you will have to provide the node parent, so we will use both. So because we want to join these two things over here, and add a condition on which column you want to join. So again, this is same like the SQL query. So from this category ID and from this ID we want to select, and then this is what the output schema will look like, and this is what the general data preview if you want to see the data preview. And now we want to store this particular data into the analytical bucket. So for that we will have to create one more bucket. Go to your bucket. Again, the process is same. Instead of creating the raw bucket, over here we will put analytics bucket. Okay, the same version, Northeast, the North Virginia, then enable the encryption and keep everything as it is. Okay, so give this name as it is, click on to the create bucket, and it should create the bucket, because again we have like the architecture such as one is for the raw data, one is for the clean version, and one is for the reporting or analytical version. Go over here on Glue Studio, target, add the target, and for the target we're going to be using Amazon S3, and over here we will provide again Parquet format. We want to store that into Parquet. Compression type, select the snappy for right now. Browse this particular thing, go and select your S3 bucket that you just created, which is the analytical version, this one. Click on to choose, and also we want to create the data catalog inside our Glue. So for that you need to first create the analytical database. So go over here, you can easily create the analytical database. Just write the query create database and give the database name as DB YouTube Analytics. There are multiple ways you can create a database, but this is the easiest way. So I'm just going to run this particular query and it will create the new database. Just refresh this and you'll be able to see the analytical database over here. Go to again your Glue Studio, refresh this and you should be able to see the analytical version. Click over here and give your table name, let's say raw, let's give the final analytics. Okay, just keep it as it is. Partition key, if you want to add some kind of a partition key. So for now we will use the region because we've been using region as our partition key, and you can provide multiple partition keys. So we will use a category ID because so based on the category ID we are accessing a lot of data. So after that you also need to provide some of the job details. So over here again you need to select the IAM role that we just created. So again, select the IAM role that we created, keep everything as it is, click on the save. Once the job is saved, then you should be able to run this particular job. So once this job is done, click on the run job and it should start executing this particular job. So there are multiple ways you can monitor your job. One is using the legacy job. So over here you will see the analytical version of the job has been created and you will see the job is running. Or second version, you can click on to the Glue Studio, click on the view monitoring, and you can just scroll down and monitor your job over here. So currently we have like DB Parquet analytic version is running, and this should take around like a few minutes to run this particular job, and we will see our final output inside the analytical version bucket that we created. So let me just go to analytical version. So we should be able to see our output into the analytical version. As you can see, you will see all the data has been getting written over here, and we created the partition. So first of all, we added the partition based on the region. So we have 3 regions. So there we are basically partitioning, and then based on the different category ID, it is partitioning that data into more different chunks. So for the category 1, category 10, 15, based on that, it is partitioning the data. So we just completed our final ETL pipeline. So you can again monitor your job over here because it might be currently running. So as you can monitor your job over here, and you will see the job got success. So job got completed, and you got to see the final output over here. Now how crazy is that? Now you can also go to your Athena and refresh this particular thing. Go to analytical version, just preview this final analytical table that we just created, and you'll be able to see the final data over here. So what we just did, we did a lot of different things. We started with the raw data, we cleaned that particular data, then we joined that data using AWS Glue, and we finally built our analytical or reporting version of our data. So congratulations if you have been following till now, because you just completed one of the most important and one of the hardest things in the data engineering, because most of the time as a data engineer you will be doing a lot of things, such as you will be picking up the raw data, cleaning that data to reporting version, and making sure all the data gets properly transformed and securely built on top of the data warehouse. So we had some raw data, we cleaned that data, and we built the reporting version. Now the reason for building reporting version is pretty simple. Generally this is what the cleans layer would look like. Okay, we had to join multiple tables in order to get the final output, and you can't run this particular query every day to get the final data. So instead of running this large complex query, what you can do, you can combine that data into the ETL pipeline and just give the final version of the table to the BI person or a data scientist, so that he can easily query that data just by putting one single filter, which is by just writing that where ID is equal to 2 instead of joining multiple tables. So this makes things much easier for the data scientist or data analyst to analyze the data and build machine learning models or do some analysis on top of it. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna be visualizing this particular data, and we will create some few graphs to understand and give you the idea how the visualization works. So again, you need to go to S3, and so again you need to go to AWS console. So go to AWS console and search for the QuickSight. QuickSight is AWS built BI management tool. Okay, so you can go set up the QuickSight for your account if you are doing it for the first time. Instead of enterprise, we're gonna be clicking on the standard because we are using it for ourselves. Give the account name, let's say just give your own name if you want, then provide your email ID, whatever the email ID you have, then give access to all of these things where you want to access your data. Click on finish, and you'll be able to create your QuickSight account easily. It's just simple steps. You just have to provide basic details and you're good to go. So guys, if you're learning new from this video, then make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my channel, and subscribe to the Project Pro channel. And if you want more projects like this, then you can go and check out the Project Pro website. Now go to Amazon QuickSight once you create your QuickSight account. Now you just have to do basic things, which is build your data source and start visualizing the data. So once you register your account to the QuickSight, the next thing you need to do is go over here and click on the Manage QuickSight and go to Security and Permission. Over here, what you need to do, you need to give permission to S3 buckets that we have, such as the analytical bucket and all the different buckets that we have been using, just in case if we get some error. So I already done this, but just go over here and select all the buckets such as the analytical bucket, clean version, the Athena where we actually stored our output, and the raw version, and just click on the finish. Once you do that, just click on the quick site, and we need to first build the data set. So we basically have to import data from Athena to the quick site. So we need to build a connection for that. So click over here on Athena, just add whatever the name you want, such as YouTube Analytics Dashboard. Okay, then click on the validate connection. It is basically checking the connection with the Athena. Click on the create data source, and then it will make connection with the data set that we have on the Athena. Just then select your data set, which is the analytical version that we created. Click on the final analytics, that is the table name that we have, and you can actually see your data over here. So if you go edit and preview, you'll be able to see all the columns that we have in our table, and you will also get the preview of the data, such as 10 different rows from the data. So as you can see, we have like all the data coming over here, and you can just click on save and publish, and it will create the final data source for you. Once you publish your data set, you can go to the data set that we have. You can see over here we have like final analytics data set. Click on that, and you just need to click on the create analysis. Once you click on the create analysis, then you can start building your dashboard. So let's just click on this particular likes, and once you click on this particular like, then you will see the total number of likes, which is the sum over here. Then instead of sum, what we want count. So total number of likes that we have in our data. So as we can see, in total we have like 70,000 likes. Get this snip title, put that into the trend group. I mean, you just have to play with this particular data set to understand how it works. Then you can change the bar to, let's say, from the number you want to produce the bar chart. This is like the vertical one. You can also get the horizontal one, and we can understand some of the analysis. So if I zoom this particular thing, then you will understand like the highest category of like people liking different videos based on the category. We have like people and blogs. The second thing is the entertainment, then the music. Like this, you can also create analysis for, let's say, just duplicate this particular thing. So instead of like counts, let's give this particular thing as views. Okay, so let's check the views, and for the views we will keep the sum, and let's see how many views. So highest viewed category is music, then we have entertainment, then people and blogs, and all this. So you can get the idea of how everything is baked. You can also change this just by clicking onto this particular donut chart, or if you want pie chart, then you can build your graph using the pie chart. It will take few minutes. As you can see over here, we have the pie chart. So you need to ask different questions to understand different things. So let's say if you want to see like based on the region, so let's just duplicate the visuals over here, and let's put, instead of title, we will put region over here, and you will see number of views coming from that particular region. So as you can see, we have like a lot of views coming from the Germany, then we have like the Canada and all the other thing. Okay, so you just have to use your creativity over here. You can use whatever the graphs you want, and based on that you can build your final dashboard. So consider, for the example, let's say we have done everything. We got all the different things we needed for this particular dashboard. Then you can export this dashboard, like you can print it, save it. If you want to save it, just say like dashboard for YouTube, just click on save, and you'll be able to see the final dashboard version if you want. Okay, so this is how you just save it. Then you can go back over here. So over here you can see the analysis you created. If you want, you can share. If you want to share this particular thing, you can just click on the publish dashboard, my first dashboard. Click on the publish dashboard, and you will be able to see the final version inside the dashboard. And you can also share this particular link with the people if you want. Okay, you just have to share this link, and you'll be able to share it. So now for this dashboard, I mean, you just have to use your own creativity. So you need to ask different questions: from which region we are getting more views, from which region people are watching which type of categories most, and based on that you need to visualize your data. So this is what the final analysis looks like, and this is the job of like BI person or a data scientist who wants to understand what is happening inside the data. Now you can do that. So now this is basically the final thing inside our project. So let me just pull out my PPT. Let me just get the architecture diagram. Okay, so this is the architecture diagram. So what we had data onto the Kaggle, then we built our landing area, which we basically uploaded our data onto S3. Then we processed that data using Lambda and the glue and put that data into the clean version in the Parquet format. Then we ran some query, did some ETL on top of the clean version and built the analytical reporting version. And now you can easily visualize that data onto QuickSight. Now there are a lot of different things we had in between, the errors we had and everything. So you can easily solve that and just take step-by-step approach and you can easily fix those things. So I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoy this entire journey in the project series. Now if you want to learn more about this type of projects and if you want more hands-on experience, go to Project Pro. They have like more than 120 projects. So if one project can give you so much learning, consider doing like 10 projects or 20 projects, and that will help you to understand this system in more detail. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Thank you for executing this entire thing. If you have any issues, then you can join the Discord channel. Check the link in the descriptions. You can join the Discord channel and you can ask your question over there, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. So I hope you learned something new from this video and executed this project end to end. Again, if you are facing any issues or errors, then you can join the Discord channel. I will put the link in the description so you can check it. And other than that, make sure to like this particular video and subscribe to the Project Pro channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.